What is going on in Mozambique? On the 9th of October, Mozambique had its elections and the political party in power retained power. Now, a lot of people have said, particularly the opposition has said this, even civil societies have said this, and as well as the international observers who went to observe the elections also had issues with the election. They said it didn't take the form of a democratic process. The opposition has said it's rigged. Yes, it's very possible. And I mentioned this in our last episode of the Amanda Show when I was talking about the elections that took place in Botswana. Now I want us to take a closer look at it. So there's a certain form this protest in Mozambique is taking that I want to shed light on just in case people may not have noticed. Now, like I said before, this election, the opposition party said it's rigged. It's very possible. Very possible. The civil society groups within Mozambique and also the election observers said it didn't meet democratic standards. It's very possible. I will be honest. I didn't follow the elections in Mozambique, the process, so I cannot say. But it's very likely that this thing has gone on. Why? Because many times, particularly with political parties that have been ingrained in the system for a very long time, many times they behave anyhow. And to think that political parties that engaged in the fight for the liberation of Africa from colonialism would turn out to be so incompetent would be shocking. I don't want to mention names, but even in that Southern African region, many of them Many of them, if you had told them in the 1950s, in the 1960s, in the 1940s, when they were fighting for the liberation of the African people, that they would turn out to be a problem for the continent, they would not have believed it. But here we are. African leaders have failed us, particularly the young people in Africa. They have been failed by our politicians. Because the Africa that some of them worked in our founding fathers, some of them worked in what I mean by founding fathers, I mean post colonial um, leaders like Thomas Sankara, like Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba. Many of these people, if they would look in the future, oh, if they would have looked in the future to see what Africa would have become, by people who actually fought side by side them, they'll be very disappointed. So African youth are tired because they look around the world and they see a world that is relatively prosperous, a world that has relative stability. Yes, yes, you can argue that the instability in Africa is felt by outsiders, yes. But many times this instability in Africa is felt by outsiders with the consent of people inside. With the consent. I'll give you an example with Nigeria. A few months ago, a sitting governor, a governor of a state in Nigeria, accused a former governor of propping up terrorism in the state, and there was no uproar, no backlash. The media didn't emphasize the situation. In fact, the governor that was accused of propping up terrorism in his state is now playing in the federal level. So, like I said, terrorism funded by outsiders cannot exist in Africa without the help of insiders. After all, when they killed Thomas Sankara, who killed him? Who played a part in his death? People within his friends on this continent, in in Burkina Faso. So even if you want to say terrorism in Africa, which is true and there's a lot of evidence to it, terrorism in Africa is propped up by outsiders. But it is propped up by outsiders with the help of insiders. So I said that to say this. Many leaders in Africa have just, they just behave, they failed us. That's the best way I can put it. They failed us, especially the young Africans who look around the world. They see relative stability, relative prosperity. They see dignity for human life. They see the rule of law working excellently, and then they look at home and it's a madhouse. So it's because of this that Africans, especially young Africans, have gotten sick and tired of all these political parties that have existed. They came into power post colonialism. Now, if you look at that from the standpoint of Mozambique, you can see why a lot of people want the current administration out of power because they have not delivered. Mozambique has battled a civil war recently. Mozambique is battling with terrorism. Of course, people will want a change. But sometimes what you think may be the change may not be the change. What do I mean by that? Because the current administration is so pathetic, according to a lot of Mozambicans, and okay, because the current administration is so pathetic and they have failed at delivering the most basic issue of security, many people are looking other way to other people and say, okay, you might be the help that we are looking for. But that may not be the help that you're looking for, especially if that place you are looking at is being propped up by outsiders. Let's look at the protests going on in Mozambique. So it's looking like the elections were rigged, and so Mozambicans are standing their ground because they want the people who they actually voted for to come into power. Very likely that the elections were rigged because many of these African leaders, it's not hard for them to rig elections. We just saw one in Nigeria last year. It's not hard for them to rig elections. So it's very likely that these elections are rigged. But like I've said before, I said this when I spoke about the protests in Kenya that happened this year. I said this when I spoke about the protests in Nigeria that happened this year. I'm saying this now about the protests in Mozambique. When you are protesting, you have an issue with your government or something that happened in your country and you're protesting, and you resort to and you see people resort to burning down your country. Those people are not working for the interest of Mozambique. They may look like you, they may speak your language, but they are not working for the interest of Mozambique. They are not. Because you tell me why protesters are angry. Yes, but why you're angry and you're burning down infrastructure? You're burning down. Okay, I saw several videos of burning trucks carrying goods, people's businesses. And these protesters are so called, no, they're not protesters, they are rioters. These rioters are burning down people's hard earned money. They're burning it with no care because they're angry at a rigged election. Rigged election is very bad. Rigged election is very bad. And many of these leaders in Africa, even in Mozambique, like I mentioned, they have not dealt with the issues in your country. So I get that you're angry. But anybody that is burning down your country, whether they look like you or not, whether they speak your language or not, they're not working in the interest of Mozambique. They're working for people who want to get things in a certain way in your country. I want to highlight something that I've not seen anybody talk about. For me, what is going on in Mozambique? Yes, we agree your current administration is bad. I agree with you. And I said it's very possible that they rigged the election because many of these African leaders, it's not hard for them. And they rig election only to continue being incompetent. So you want a change, I accept. But this is looking to me like a regime change operation taking place in Mozambique. Why did I say it? And it looks like a regime change operation backed by the United States. This is a CIA operation to remove a certain administration that, for whatever reason, I don't know, and to bring in a certain administration. But just bear in mind that if the people who are burning your country, who are funding those that are burning trucks carrying goods in your country, if they get their way, whoever they bring into office is not going to work to the benefit of your country. We saw that in Nigeria because Nigerians were angry, and rightly so, at the PDP. Nigerians were angry at Goodluck Jonathan. And then when that whole thing with the Chibok girls that were kidnapped from school, very painful in Nigeria, happened, a lot of people were really upset, and rightly so. Because of that, it ushered in an administration that saw Nigeria through three recessions, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even four. That is the Buhari administration. After everything, they did not bring back our girls. In fact, Buhari left office leaving terrorism worse than he met it. Leaving bandits running around burning farms across Nigeria, causing chaos and mayhem. Leaving now the chaos didn't just stay in the north. We also saw chaos spreading into the southeast, the east. We saw it even several parts, even the middle belt across the country. Initially, it was just located in a certain region. It has spread across the country now. What am I saying? When Nigerians were saying, Jonathan, get out, and they were propping and asking the other one who ran on change, we are going to change things. Okay, Buhari came in. He did not bring any change. He left Nigeria worse than he left it. Buhari under the APC. Now another APC administration is in office, and Nigerians have never seen such level of poverty ever in Nigeria. Never seen such level of poverty with this Tinubu regime. But outsiders have been benefiting both from the Buhari administration and this one.
The level of interference by the Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if by my own thinking and also the way some other people look at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned. Sending that person to Nigeria at the eve of election, after Obama even issued a statement directing Nigerians to vote for the next chapter, that tells you something. And we should not sweep this things under the carpet. If a foreign country, or an African country, or even America or any other country interferes with our own elections, we should mention.
So what am I telling you in Mozambique? The people who will burn your country to the ground are not friends of Mozambique. If you did not know, the US aid is active right now as we speak, is very active in Mozambique. In fact, I saw recently, I don't even know why I didn't notice this earlier, but I saw recently that they were setting up a fund for some civil society, just recently, before these elections, for some civil society movements to do some things in Mozambique. This is looking to me like a US backed regime change operation taking place in Mozambique right now. I mentioned before that there are two ways this regime change operation can take place, at least based on what I know. Number one, it can be more subtle and calm, where they will use the media or use or use an incident in your country and play it up in the media so that it will trigger your emotions and you look to vote for some other person. The people that have been prepped up and the United States wants in your country, they use the media to do that. Meanwhile, at the other side, they will now be telling the incumbent, you better get out or we will burn your country to the ground. Again. So when the incumbent just says, okay, fine, I'm out. Aha. These people will come in and have their way with whoever they want to come to power. But then there's another way where the incumbent may insist and say, no, they're not going anywhere. Then they use riots, not protests, riots, to cause chaos across the country. And I think that is what we are seeing right now in Mozambique. I know if you're watching me in Mozambique right now, you're very pained and you're saying, no, is this we saw this in Nigeria. So I'm telling you this from experience because we have the luxury of looking back and find out that what was done to Jonathan just to get him out of office, to bring in Buhari, we didn't know back then that was a CIA regime change operation. When many of us went to protest, when many of us carried placards, when many of us we echoed the talking points given to us from the CIA through the media, we didn't know what we were doing. But Buhari came in and he broke the economic back of Nigeria. Tinubu came in and pushed it even further down. So I'm telling you this thing clearly now in Mozambique. This is what is going on in your country. You will now decide how you want to salvage the situation. So you might be saying, oh, Kamada, how do you know? After all, Nigeria, how how Jonathan left office wasn't with this kind of protest. Okay, I'll give you just recently, we saw what was going on in Georgia. That's the whole protest we're seeing in Georgia because the elections went a certain way that some people did not want. Those things you were seeing in Georgia, the protest, the carrying flags, the hitting, scattering everywhere. It was, in fact, the Samantha Powell, the head of USAID, she was in Georgia. We've seen this thing in places like, we've seen it in Turkey, we've seen it in Hungary, we've seen it in Belarus. So that's why I always tell people, don't just follow local politics. Follow your local politics. It's important to know what's going on in your country, but also follow geopolitics because sometimes you'll be able to see certain movements When you're beginning to see that in your country, you can say, oh, this is the method. So what we are seeing right now, I'm telling you straight up, what we are seeing right now it has all the signs of a regime change operation backed by the United States. Why they want to remove the political party in power, I don't know. But they clearly want to bring in opposition. When that opposition comes in, don't think, do not think that that opposition is going to work for the benefit of Mozambique. Don't think. Because this protest now that they are burning goods, trucks carrying goods all across, it has even led South Africa to close border between South Africa and Mozambique. This should even tell you something that they don't care about the economy of your country. Because now that South Africa has closed that border, that land border where there was trade between Mozambique and South Africa, that was giving your people money, that was giving your people food, that was helping the economy of your country, that thing has stopped. South Africa has closed the border. Who is it going to punish? You think it's going to punish the people in office? Don't forget that even if you don't have food in your country, the people in office will still have food. They will still have food the same way sanctions work. Sanctions don't work to get rid of the party in power or the people in power. Sanctions work by punishing the citizens so that the citizens will rise up to overthrow their government. So this one now, this whole burning and looting that has led South Africa to lock the land border between South Africa and Mozambique is going to punish the people. It's not punishing the government. It's not. So I'm telling you this in Africa and also in Mozambique. If you have followed the playbook of United States regime change operations around the world, you will see clearly that what's going on in Mozambique has all the markings of such an operation. If it looks like a dog, barks like a dog, walks like a dog, it is very likely a dog. Tell me what you think about what's going on in Mozambique in the comment section below. And if you're in Mozambique, please share your opinion with us. Let us know a lot more of what's going on ground. Because, like I said, anybody who is burning your country does not, burning the goods, burning your buildings, burning your cars, does not wish you well. Let me know what's going on in Mozambique on the ground in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends, your family, and everybody so that we can amplify the voice of Africans on the global stage. And people will actually know, fellow Africans and fellow Mozambicans will know what's going on, really going on in Mozambique. This is my suspicion of what's going on in Mozambique. And I really hope that I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong.